Gonna get a sound check.
Boo!
Excellent. We got Discord audio, we got microphone, and we are all set. Let me make sure I retweet this.
Oh, fucking hell.
What?
And I just looked at a website to see what the 21st of July is. It's like, oh yeah, it's the ascension of King Leopold I.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not a wonderful human being from what I've heard.
No.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. August 4th, my birthday, is National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's good. I like that.
That's one of the best birthdays you could possibly have. All right. Ready to go in 3, 2. Hello and welcome to NoCB, a grand strategy podcast. This is for the week of the 23rd of June, 2021. I am your host, who is still lazy and has not come up with a new meme to use yet. Yeah, we were. Oh yeah, that was live. I said we were pushing audio out. I am Liana. I'm your host. I'm here with our super cool panel, including Rose,
Hey there.
including Lambert,
Hello there.
and including Father Loris.
What's up? Hello.
And check your history at NoCBcast. Gigo, why should we check our history? What's going on?
Apparently we got the wrong
Leopold.
It was his dad
that
was the... Oh no, his
so
son.
Leopold I was probably a lovely guy, that I'm sure. No slander against Leopold I.
Well,
Oh my God.
he obviously maybe didn't give his son enough attention.
Yeah. I mean, I would hazard a guess that he probably was not a great father. How he was as a king, I don't want to speculate, but
Just us to have like the one Belgian in chat now who will
Yeah, well,
instantly
you know,
snipe us down on the Leopold
Jigo is
history.
not Belgian. He just lives in Belgium. He's French.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh,
like,
oh
Like all
wait, here we
Belgians,
go.
huh?
He was Leopold I was chosen by the Brits.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, the creation of Belgium was a mistake. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, half of
Yeah.
it should be the Netherlands, the other half should be France. I think we've just.
Oh no, all of it should be
You two
Netherlands.
just alienated a whole country. Good job.
Well, was it Valor?
job.
Valor gained.
Look, if
were
we
you the one
didn't
that
create
was...
the Netherlands, then, the Maginot Line would have been fine.
Was it Valor Game that was saying Switzerland should be split up between Germany, Italy, and France? Was that who that was?
Oh, that's a terrible,
I know.
terrible
I don't know
idea.
if he's in chat right now. Oh yeah, here he is. Yeah.
Alfred, Brits totally were a mistake. Queen Elizabeth I should never have left her throne to the Scottish king and, started that whole thing.
Oh yeah, the Acts of Union.
Look, honestly, the problem with Britain really goes down to 1066. We should never have let the French in. That's where everything went wrong,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to start with a little bit of humankind today because there was did they call it a beta this time?
They called it a closed beta when it was the same as the open devs.
Closed beta.
Yeah, it's also called the Poe Open Beta as well. They still call it an open beta. Open dev.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was both an open beta and an open dev.
Closed beta, open dev. Also, it's not very closed at all, considering if you pre-order, you get access. If you watch someone stream for 3 hours, you got access. And like, as far as the openness of the beta goes, it's like an ajar beta. It's like it's not closed. It's not. It's just in that midway point where you can't quite squeeze through the gap.
It's like there's a guy.
Have you ever seen the locks that there's safety locks that they sell put on your door? So your door to a bedroom, you could have it not open far enough for a kid to get through, but like a cat could still squeeze through it.
Yeah, like a chain lock kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an ajar beta. It's yeah.
Yeah, I know. Lambert and Rose, you both have videos on this. Whoops, I forgot to change the transition there. One sec. Okay.
Well, I honestly only streamed it once and didn't do a full game because I got sick last week, and then my son got sick, and yeah.
I streamed it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I started again both times, like from the start. and then I got sick, so I had to do a bunch of just like local recording while not streaming. So like all of my open dev, closed beta, closed whatever, comes from just recording offline, and my voice is garbage in it because yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I finished the game. I got to about turn 160, I guess, before I was like, "Yep, I've experienced it." Because I managed to finish all of the eras. I got all the era stars and stuff. Finished the
What?
industrial era, and the only industrial era type thing I got to experience was the um British the building you can build, your emblematic district, and that's it. That's it. That is
Yeah.
the only industrial thing other than like my character's like awesome clothing.
Yeah, it
Um
feels like you don't get enough time in the eras.
yeah. Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can kind of end up stuck in an era almost. Which, if I've played at a higher difficulty, and that's happened to me, you can't expand, so you can't get more territories.
Yeah.
And your population's growing, and you're getting research, and you're getting those stars and the district stars, but it's still slow.
Well, I spent I don't know how much time specifically it was, but I have one video on the Neolithic. I've got one video on ancient, one video on classical. I have two videos on medieval, three on early modern, and then two on industrial. So I guess that kind of shows how much time I kind of spent in each. Um, but it just felt like while I was at war quite a heavy amount during the medieval and early modern. And then by the time I won those wars, I had so many error stars from killing units because it was a goddamn meat grinder. The game was over. I finished it. And I managed to get, click the button to finish the industrial era, and I didn't even have redcoats. I didn't even have my emblematic unit from the early modern. Like my most up to date unit was like a musketeer. I only just unlocked the gunpowder like 10 turns before I finished.
What difficulty were you on?
I was on nation, so like straight up in the middle. I tried empire and it kicked my ass.
Yeah, yep, above nation, it gets tough fast. I
Yeah.
have noticed that unless you start off with like the Babylonians and push early science like that, your tech tree gets so skewed compared to your eras.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely seems like there is a big balancing problem when it comes to the amount of science you get, how fast you go through the eras. I think
Yeah.
what my suggestion for how to fix it is just rubber banding all over the place. That the more error stars you get, your tech will either speed up or slow down compared to it. The AI will get extra tech or less tech depending on how far ahead or behind you they are. Just rubber banding to keep everyone somewhere remotely close to each other. Obviously, if you are playing a science-heavy nation and you're really focusing on science, you should be able to get ahead and stay ahead, but not storm off into an early lead and keep it for the rest of the game. I don't think that's
Not going to space when everyone else is still running around on knights.
Yeah.
As knights with
yeah.
horses.
Well, I was in the industrial era when I finally unlocked my classical unit, the Roman Praetorian. Like that took so long to get just the Praetorian. It's crazy.
Well, you probably avoided a lot of coups by not having a Praetorian Guard until the early modern
Probably.
era.
There are things that I really like about it, especially sieges are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, tech progression is awful. It's imbalanced. It's paced really badly. Worse than the previous open devs, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I think it's gonna be relatively easy to fix it. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't spent as much time with it as you have, but sort of the impression I come away with is I really like how they've changed up combat. I really like the diplomacy system overall, but there's a lot of it that I'm not quite feeling yet. And I think we discussed a little bit before the show that I think part of it is just that they haven't like let us loose to be like, okay, put all the settings how you want and set up the game exactly how you want with all of the stuff, all of the options available to you. We haven't gotten to see that yet, which is something that like I'm very particular about, like in Civ. Like I will spend 15-20 minutes tweaking the game settings to get like exactly the kind of world and exactly the kind of challenge and story that I want.
I called it in my like final video on it. I called it era whiplash, because when I was 1 star away from finishing the industrial era, I was in the year 790 CE. I did not have gunpowder, but I was in the industrial era with no gunpowder, and it was 790 CE. It's like it's going forward, it's going back, it's going forward, going back. It's whiplash. It really is. It's...
Spastic Madman in chat is saying, I had this problem with Endless Legend, which was also by the same studio, and we've talked about this before with a number of my strategy critic friends, where we're like, oh yeah, Endless Legend, yeah. Is it a good game? I don't know. It's so hard to to tell. Like I can't tell you if it's good or not. It's this weird.
I think a lot of Endless Legend is carried by its aesthetics. It's such good aesthetically, and
well, you know what they could do as well is you can't progress to the next era unless you have a certain number of techs in the previous era.
I like that idea. Yeah, that would make
a lot of sense. Yeah.
If let's say there's 20 techs, you need at least 16 to progress.
It was funny as well. I was fighting as the early modern era, I think it was the Mughals. My enemy was still in the medieval era, and he had units like crossbowmen and pikemen that were like 4 or 5 techs ahead of where I was. So he was fighting me with like ridiculously high-powered units compared to what I had. But he was in an earlier era to me. It's like, yeah. Fixing it with amount of text needed would be a good way to fix it.
Yeah, because if it doesn't feel like history, a lot of the other stuff kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
So, being attacked by someone with higher tech than you isn't necessarily a bad thing, because that's happened in history.
Yeah.
But yeah, like weird stuff like you're describing, where they're like an era ahead of you, but for some reason they have worse military units. That is a little immersion breaking. I did love the statistic that like what was it that like everybody just thought they could 1v1 a mammoth, so like the the deadliest, it was like the deadliest enemy in the game or something like that.
Yeah.
When I played it, I haven't played it for a long time. But man, the Neolithic was still my favorite era by a long shot. I mean, I think the Neolithic, such good design.
Yeah. Well, it feels different from a typical Civ game, and I like that a lot.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
I think that may be part of why we feel like the eras are off, because in Civ, when you hit a new era, it's directly tied to your tech and tech alone.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean, I'm not quite sure about the tech thing too, because I know what we're trying to do. We're trying to like make it so it's not entirely based on the tech of the era, right?
Right.
Which makes sense, but I think maybe there is a balance to be made, I guess.
Maybe there should be you need to have so these certain techs are for this era, so you need to be in this era before you can unlock these techs. That might work as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, it kind of.
Oh, go ahead.
Isn't in that way, because there's certain techs that you like. Oh, I'm going to unlock gunpowder, but I can't see saltpeter on the map yet because I'm not in the right era. So I guess in a way it kind of is, but it's the balance is just kind of all over the place.
It's a lot of little idiosyncrasies. It's out like next week, I think, like a week from today, isn't it?
No, August 17th.
Is it?
I honestly thought it was like June 30. Yeah.
I thought it was like August 1st.
No, August 17th, 2021.
Oh, okay. I thought it was coming out like next week. I don't Or maybe
No.
maybe that's when the
We've
review
got 2
copies are
months.
coming out.
Well, that gives me a bit more hope that
I need to
they'll
double
fix the
check my
balance.
email because I think maybe somebody who was asking me this was very wrong. Oh, it's Old World that I'm thinking of. I'm getting the two. I'm getting the two 4X games that are coming out this year mixed up. Old World is coming out next week. We'll probably talk about that a little bit because I am
Yeah,
reviewing.
that makes more sense. I mean, it doesn't really much
That
make
makes me
sense to
feel
have
better because
a beta event.
yeah, that tells me that they've got a little bit more time to tweak some things with.
On the topic of Old World, that's the biggest problem I have with Old World is simply it's not on Steam.
See, I have not played it since the very first press build, so I'm interested to see how far it's come.
It had the bad luck of coming out 2 weeks after I gave birth. So...
Yeah, I could see how that would be poor timing.
I remember liking what I played of it. I just didn't play much of it because it was on fucking Epic. I've got no ethical quandaries with Epic. I don't give a shit. It's just I'm incredibly lazy and like just installing another program, opening another program every single day to just play one game. It's like, no, I'm good. I'll pass on that one.
It's another game that's made in an era that I just don't really care about. So like,
see, I really like the era. It's like my favorite era.
Oh
yeah. I probably won't actually play
I'm
it.
with you.
Really, with your love of Imperator, we couldn't tell, Lambert.
And speaking of Imperator, great segue to. Nope, never mind.
That's the game that has replaced Imperator.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Well,
a much better
it's got
era,
pops.
far more interesting.
It's
my
got
favorite
pops.
era.
I'm happy.
Well, it's great. They've dumped my least favorite era and replaced it with my favorite era in history.
We're hoping that humankind will be good, and this dev diary is about goods. So
hey,
nailed it.
Nailed it.
Slick.
Nailed it.
Very slick.
Nailed it. Yeah. So, Lambert, why don't you run us through this good dev diary here?
The goods seem good. My issue with this dev diary is just there is not enough information.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, there are these goods. They come in 4 different categories of staple goods, luxury goods, industrial goods, military goods. They explain vaguely what each good is like. What they are. Staple goods, pops need them to live. Luxury goods, the stuff that your the Ponzi picks want. The industrial goods are stuff that your factories are going to want. Military goods are the stuff that your military is going to want. The dev diary over.
Yeah.
Information, please. I need it.
They did correct me from last week, though. Like, so grain is only going to be modeled as a single good, but then like all of the individual grains like rice and wheat and stuff are different
production methods.
Yeah, different production methods, which is what next week's dev diary is going to be.
Which is this is like what the 4th dev diary in a row that we've been like, okay, so what are production methods?
Yeah,
like we need to know what a production method is because you're showing us all these images that have production methods on it, and it's just vague, confusing, and
they're
doesn't make any sense. Just like, come on.
They've got.
Dean says tomorrow.
Yeah, there is a Twitter teaser.
Yeah, we did
tomorrow's dev diary.
We did get a teaser talking about fishing trawlers.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it'll consume flipper ships to make fish, employing laborers and machinists.
But like, can you tell me here, like, what has this got to do with the consumption method? Like, it still does nothing.
I guess maybe like later on, if you get better ships, it'll like consume the same amount of ships, but give you more fish per ship. Like once you invent better technology, that would be my guess.
I'm gonna use my steam ships to go get some fish. Sure.
Some ironclads. We're just gonna go hunting whales in an ironclad with.
We're not going fishing. We're going whaling.
I do have one concern here, and this is not a dumbing down from Victoria 2, because I'm pretty sure this is already how it worked in Victoria 2. If it works how I think they're saying it works. They say the price of goods varies in base. A single unit of tanks is pricier than a single unit of fabric and an actual market value. I would prefer that they do not assign an arbitrary base value to anything. I would prefer that the
when
value
you do that
be...
is you have massive inflation, like ridiculous amounts of inflation on a certain good.
Yeah.
Military goods especially would instantly become far too expensive, and the economy would crash.
Yeah.
You have to have some kind of baseline.
Yeah, that's fair. For gameplay reasons, I get it. This is still, like, I think it's still going to be a really cool economic system. If there was a way to do it in a perfect world where,
Yeah.
you know, the code wizard can just wave their code wand and make it work, I would prefer that the price of everything just be based on, you know, materials plus labor, and then, you know, adjusted by supply and demand. There would be no, like, base resting point, but I could see why they need to do that.
In Victoria 2, the way that it worked was every good had a value, and the value could change based on supply and demand, down to 0.2% of 0.2 of the cost, or 20% of the cost, and up to 500% of the cost, depending on supply and demand. So you could end up. It's a pretty big range. It's reasonable. But it never went to the point where it's like insane. It kind of did. I mean, anytime you include China, it kind of did.
Yeah. So it's China's
don't sphere China. Just don't.
Yeah, it does well.
Yeah, I got around to watching the panel from PDXCon that was like the Victoria 2 Memories panel.
Yeah.
And they were discussing why China broke the game, and it was like because they had too many artisans, and the artisans were all like constantly independently deciding to produce a different thing based on like the momentary conditions of what was profitable. But it was like every artisan in China would do it at once, and it would just destroy the entire global economy, which is kind of funny.
There's a lot of artisans. Yeah.
Yeah,
there was a crazy one where Bengal went free. They went independent from the British East India Company, and they made like the vast majority of the grain. But because they were quote unquote uncivilized, they weren't allowed to trade on the world market, and so they it's something like they made money, but they couldn't spend it. They couldn't buy anything from the world market. So over the period of about 20 years or something, all the world's money slowly went into Bengal because they were able to sell but just not buy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So,
that's it. Yeah.
and there's only a finite amount of money in the world. So one by one, all of the countries of the world went bankrupt as Bengal just built a gold mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
But people at Bengal weren't happy though, because all they had was grain. They had no other staple goods, no luxury goods, no nothing. It was just grain, so they were unhappy, and everyone else was unhappy because they didn't have any fucking money. So the economy of Vic it's great.
Yeah.
It kind of needs a little bit of love though.
Yeah, it was totally accurate economics.
Yeah, I think a lot of this dev area you just have to wait for the production stuff to come out.
Right.
That's what I'm also really looking forward to. I hope we get like quite we have different types of grain. I hope that applies to different things too. So
we were speculating on Reddit that it would be great if like American pops with a high enough wealth level could just become increasingly culturally fascinated in advanced military hardware. Until they're just like demanding howitzers as part of their everyday needs. I want to create my Ancapistan libertarian paradise where every yeoman farmer has a railway gun in their backyard. Not even gonna buy the game if we can't do that. Honestly,
American independence was a mistake.
I do hope that like some of those fascinations are kind of at least not hard coded, but I guess pushed. I
for specific cultures.
Britain with tea, obviously.
Yeah.
Americans having a negative fascination for tea.
Yeah.
It's like,
We
oh
like
yeah,
our-
well,
we like
the
our
home
coffee.
countries like tea,
Coffee,
so
yeah,
we're
yeah.
not gonna.
Coffee, whiskey, and tobacco. That's the American way.
Well, did they list all the luxury goods in Mr. Diary?
I don't know if they
No,
lifted all
no,
of
we just did.
list
We
of-
just showed porcelain, right?
They did say tractors are going to be a good though, so you're not going to have the fucking tractor invented event for every single
Good,
state.
good. I hope so.
It's like,
I hope the same applies for electricity too. Like
that's
electrified area.
interesting. Is electricity going to be a good?
No, I reckon it's going to be like. This is my prediction. Be gosh, like you get the town center.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that, I reckon, and it's going to require, basically, This ain't Anno,
it could be
where
or like a
inexplicably we all
infrastructure.
run our power plants off oil, which is mental.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing about Anno, isn't it? It's like, all your power plants are running on oil, all your trains transport oil. It's all about oil. Coal doesn't even get a luck in.
Yeah.
Don't use coal for nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Stuff
the
to
age
say
of
Anno.
coal.
Isn't it true
That
that
was very good.
like the coal can never be formed on Earth again? Because there's like some species of fungus now that will just break fossils down into oil. I thought I heard that. Like all the
I'm not
coal
quite
that's
sure,
on
actually.
Earth now, I think is all of the coal that
about
we're
it.
ever gonna have.
Yeah.
I thought I heard that.
I've not heard that, but that does sound like a Father Loris kind of question.
I wouldn't know, actually. Don't know about that.
And they also mentioned taboos. So in addition to fascinations, certain cultures will have taboos, which are like obsessions in reverse. So like very devout Muslim countries will not consume
Liquor.
as much alcohol. They'll still consume some alcohol because the very rich people in Muslim countries have always kind of ignored that rule throughout most of history.
Yeah. And
Isn't
also the
that
not so rich
true?
Muslims too.
Yeah.
I'd say meat in Hindu pops as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because obviously, like, they still eat meat. There are still plenty of people that do eat meat in
Yeah.
India specifically, but like compared to the world's average, it's minuscule. Even if you take away America, the world average, it's still minuscule.
Yeah.
So let's be honest, America makes the world average like double.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's like basically most of the Indian Buddhists. There's a lot of Buddhists that don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Hindus obviously don't. Jains obviously don't.
I think it's something like 85% or something. It's a figure I'm just picking from my admittedly terrible memory. It's like 85% are some form of vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah. What's Sikhism's view on meat? I don't actually know.
I don't either. Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Man, I know that
Me-
they give out food. Man, you can go and get like free food at Sikh temples. Top tip if you're feeling hungry and you don't have much money. Go to your nearest Sikh place. They give you food for free. It's great.
We Americans and
Really great
Australians
food, too.
probably eat enough red meat for the rest of to make up for all of the red meat that India is not eating. So yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what's going on with production methods a little bit more, tomorrow / next week's show. I'll especially be curious if they show off some of the unique production methods that require you to have a special economic system and how that works.
Yeah.
Oh, like a collectivized farm, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So
Something about means of production and
No, I don't. I reckon they probably don't have any difference, right? You just have that, but it's just they change ownership, right?
It might be that production method and ownership method are two different things, and I'm just getting them mixed up in my head. You might be right.
I think so. Yeah, I think whoever owns the building is separate to what the building is, right?
Right. Well,
And what it does to produce stuff.
in Victoria 3, cultures can become fascinated with stuff. In Crusader Kings 3, cultures can do other things. Rose, what did we learn this week about what's coming in? This time it was actually the expansion, not the free patch.
Yes, so we learned about basically how you can either make a hybrid culture or diverge a culture. Diverging a culture, which is actually the second part of the Dev Diary, but it's essentially what we do now with religions, in that you pay prestige instead of piety, and you can change things. The more stuff you change, the more prestige it will cost. So, if you decide that, oh, I really want my culture to be forest fighters, and they're currently, I don't know, desert fighters. I don't know if we've got desert fighters, but
It
you want to
probably
do
is
that.
in there, I'd say. That's a
Wait.
statement.
I mean, there's war camels. Let's
Yeah.
be fair.
True. So you're like, we were living in the deserts of Arabia, but now I've conquered land and I'm over here living in Sweden, because that's a natural progression. Let's change our culture to be forest fighters. So you spend prestige, and it's much easier to change, they said, to diverge your culture if you have a smaller group under your control. So if you're the Byzantine Empire, it's a bit harder to diverge the Greek culture because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I think they also said it's less likely to happen, at least for the AI in like elective realms, because they all kind of take turns. The cultures take turns being emperor or whatever.
Yep, it's more equal, more past. That goes more with hybrid.
Oh, that you're right. That was more tied to the hybrid.
Yeah.
Thing, right?
So the way hybrid works is you have to have a close association with the other culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the closer your association is, the cheaper it is to do this. And the more people that will flip with you when you hybridize the religion, the culture. So if you do it at the very lowest threshold, then not very many people will culture flip with you. And it'll also cost you a lot more prestige.
Right. Yeah, which makes sense. The other thing I liked that they mentioned about this is that the new culture will start with 100% acceptance of the two parent cultures, but it won't stay that way. It's actually going to decay, which kind of makes sense that like at the start, this new culture might not be that hard to tell apart from the two parent cultures it came from, but over time it will develop, to be seen as more different. I like how it works.
And what you have to do is the pillars. You get to select one of the two ethos from the parent cultures. You can't choose a whole new one. You have to pick one of the ones from the parents. Same for heritage, language, martial custom, which they show in that lovely image there. And then with the pillars, well, those are the pillars. With the traditions, you have a little more flexibility.
Right.
And you also get access. Like, it looks like this was Kashmiri was the original culture, but they're hybridizing with Afghans, so they're getting access to two innovations that Afghans had that Kashmiris did not. So you get innovations from them. It doesn't show traditions. Oh, there we go. The traditions, the next one.
Yeah, I know one thing that Rager told me about this is that doing hybridization, like hybridizing multiple times, will be like the only way to collect these rare ones, like the Himalayan settlers. You can't just pick that when you make a divergent culture. You'd have to hybridize with a culture that already has that. So you could kind of make your way across the map collecting all of the like unique cultural traditions from all the different cultures if you wanted to, and assuming you have enough slots.
And they did say the AI will not tend to hybridize an already hybridized culture unless you changed off the default rules in the rule setting.
Yeah, let me find that screenshot because that was hilarious. We've got maybe it was in the comments.
They do say historical ones, so Anglo-Saxon are technically already a hybridized culture, but Normans move in, they will hybridize again to become the English.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Greco-Wadon Sicilo Greco-Biarmo Vepsian is something that can happen if you set the game rules to allow the AI to do a hybrid of hybrid of hybrid. I feel like they would come up with something a little snappier to call themselves. I don't think they would necessarily call themselves that. But
This is something I want for Imperator.
yeah, that'd
like
be cool.
I think
Hashtag
having
save Imperator.
hybridized cultures in Imperator would be awesome. Greco-Roman, kind of already a term that we agree that is a thing. Gallo-Roman, it's mostly just things to do with the Romans because they
Gallo-Roman should stick around like basically through the entire up until the Frankish invasions. Basically, like Gallo-Roman was a distinct culture, even when Cloderic showed up. So,
well, but aesthetically, when you do hybridize, you have to pick which aesthetic for your castles from one of the two.
Yeah.
But then clothing, you can either pick one, and same for coat of arms, you could pick one, or you could do a hybrid and have both.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
This would be very interesting.
Because the hybrid coats of arms will apparently combine elements from both cultures. They did clarify in the comments that if you do hybrid clothing, it means that each character will pick one of the two clothing styles. They won't like mix and match clothing pieces, which is kind of disappointing. You could still do it yourself in the barbershop for your character, obviously.
That's what I was kind of
I see it sort of like you look at some Asian or Middle Eastern countries where people are still wearing traditional or modernized traditional outfits, but then they're also still wearing jeans and t-shirts.
True.
Like, you'll see people wearing both.
I want it to dynamically generate new 3D models that are what if Norse fashion ended up in a hot and humid climate, and I want it to do that using machine learning. How hard could it be? No, that's
so you're basically wondering what the Normans looked like when they conquered southern Italy.
Yeah,
It's basically what you're asking for.
Yeah, or let me, I don't know. It would be cool if I could set it up. I wonder if it'll be moddable, where it could be like, oh yeah, they're gonna wear Indian clothes, but like keep like the Norse ruler headpieces, maybe, yeah.
Or cloaks.
Right, yeah. So
you're not sure you'd be really wanting a cloak in India.
But they might change the fabric of the cloak, so it's something more gossamer. Maybe it's silk imported from China.
Silk with fucking fur liner. Jesus.
Yeah, we're
instead of draping a bear's pelt around my shoulder, it'll be a tiger pelt.
That would be badass.
It actually would be. I kind of want this now.
Tiger berserkers, yeah, that would be so cool. But yeah, obviously that's not something I expect them to do. That would be a challenge.
I'm just pretty happy that you can just change the outfits from the beginning. You know, it's such a massive improvement. It's very good.
Yeah, you could probably go into your save file and mod your new hybrid culture and tell it what clothing to use in which slots.
The Vikings are raiding now.
Hey, welcome.
Are they tiger berserker
Vikings? Are they Mashriki Swedes? Is that
Do they have cloaks of silk lined with tiger fur?
This is a way to just say it off the cuff. But I've been sleeping real bad, and I took a nap before the podcast, and I woke up when Mordred Viking saved me from dying. Strange dream. Yeah, but thanks for saving me.
That sounds like something that could happen. That sounds kind of realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've already said they're folding in English, right, and Norman into their system.
Yeah. So
so historical cultures that were hybridizations will naturally occur. If the AI is playing them, and they will have those names, like the Anglo-Saxons merging with the Normans because William the Bastard took over England. They're not going to be Anglo-Saxon Normans.
You got it right.
They're going to be English.
That's another thing too. Well, I wanted to say, I hope Outer Rima, but use the example of Swedish Masraki, I think, in the Dev Diary. But Outer Rima culture is already a thing in the game, so maybe that'll be folded in, be a hard bridge
So
between
they
Levantine
specifically
and
address
French.
this in the comments. They say they're not sure what they're gonna do with Outremer yet, but what they will probably do, they said, is just have it as a dynamic scripted name, or if you hybridize Mashriki with any of the like Frankish or Latin Western European cultures. And then if you want to form it as someone who is not one of those culture groups, you can just create a hybrid culture and name it Outremer because you want to, if you're doing it as a player.
Cool.
But by default, yeah, like if a Norseman conquers the Holy Land, they're not going to call it Outremer if it's the AI. But you could still do that if you wanted to as a player.
I also hope that they get the names right for a lot of things too, because if it's auto-generated, you're going to get Anglo-Scots rather than Anglo-Scots or whatever. So hopefully each culture has got its own.
Oh, I wonder if Scots will be a hybrid culture now, because it kind of was historically.
Yeah.
It was kind of like almost like a three-way hybrid culture.
Yes, yeah, it's true actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It'll probably still pop up through historical, so it probably won't matter. But I wonder if they'll actually model it, like, once it shows up as a hybrid culture, like they said they were going to do with some of these other ones. Yeah, the Scots, the fact that part of the world ended up being called Scotland, if you study medieval history, was such a long shot. Like the Scoti were not like who anyone thought was going to wind up in charge. Until they did. So, yeah. So yeah, that's a really interesting story. Did we miss any of the big?
Should have stayed being called Alba.
Yeah, I mean that would be more inclusive of the Gales. So. Rose, did we miss any of the big points?
If you are diverging your culture, you can pick any of the pillars. You can't change your historical where you came from, but you can't really change your language either.
Well, I think they said you have to change at least one thing out of these four. Like you couldn't keep all of the same traits as your parent culture. You'd have to change at least the ethos or something.
Yeah, I mean, that is the only way to really change your ethos.
Yeah,
get really what you want. Which I know you have thoughts on this.
I do.
So why don't we move to your thoughts on this?
I talked about this briefly last week, so this might be kind of a repeat if you were here last week. I don't really.
Leanna, I was trying to give you a beautiful segue, and you kept cutting it off.
Sorry. Yeah. I don't really like how cultural ethos works currently, as the way they've described it. This is the forum post I made in the suggestions forum, if you want to go there and click agree or respectfully disagree or give your own thoughts. So Crusader Kings 3 is not a historical simulation. Some things exist just for gameplay reasons or as a necessary simplification. I get that, and generally I can look past it pretty easily, but this whole cultural ethos thing, I think, is taking the oversimplification a bit too far. The example I believe I gave that last week, and I gave in the forum thread, is that, like, anytime you hear about a culture being, like, very warlike, it's usually because their enemies had some kind of an agenda and wanted to portray them that way. Almost all human societies engage in regular armed conflict. There isn't really good, like, historical theory backing up the idea that any particular culture group, which obviously is not a real thing, it's an abstraction that the game uses, does more warfare than all the others. And especially what you're implying if you say that, like, certain cultures are more inventive than others, that's especially iffy. How do you decide what a culture's ethos is? Human cultures are complex, dynamic, and very internally diverse. which I think the tradition system is actually doing a good job of modeling based on the names of some of the traditions we saw in this week's dev diary. Like, yeah, if you live in the mountains, you're gonna be better at fighting and building things in the mountains. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's to try to say that like this culture is very spiritual or this culture is very communal is like stereotyping at best. You're gonna upset a lot of people who are gonna feel like their ancestral culture is being misrepresented. And I don't think that's just pointless whining. I think that's 100% valid concern for a lot of people who play these games. It'd be much better to just avoid it altogether. So my proposal is just to tie ethos to the culture head. That way you can say, instead of the Norse were very, bellicose, you could say, well, they were bellicose during the Viking Age because of the influence of warlike and expansionist leaders. Maybe you could base it on their stats, their education, maybe their lifestyle focus. I get that we probably don't want culture ethos to be changing like multiple times per century. That seems a little bit much, so maybe it could be something where you shift it over time. Maybe you pay prestige and you can change your culture's ethos to something that fits the culture head better.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Rose?
Oh, I was thinking how, you can move your capital once per lifetime.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
So something like that, but it starts a timer, so a character that moves it, or they change the culture ethos can't change again for 75 years or 100 years.
That would make a lot of sense too.
My only issue with this is not really with your suggestion, but it's with something that CK3 already has, and that's culture head. I don't agree with having a culture head.
Heads,
Because if I'm playing as say the Norse that land in Britain, I don't think my cultural ethos or what techs I fucking research should be dictated by someone who I effectively have no interest in talking to back in Stockholm. And I think if you have this sense of the ethos being tied to the cultural head, I personally am being very bellicose because I'm the one invading Britain. I'm the one with the absolute Chad that is Ubbe killing Saxons north, south, east, and west, right?
Yeah.
And I'm being incredibly bellicose. But then, Bjorn Ironside dies and his kid is like a learner fella. And then, well, now my cultural ethos, while I'm still conquering, changes to being, we like religion now. It's great.
But
yeah. And that's not.
But then you could make an Anglo-Norse culture and be the head of that culture.
Yeah, but you have to conquer it first.
Yeah.
True.
I think if it changed to, no one has a cultural. If you are king level, you are your own cultural head.
Yeah.
Just don't call it a cultural head though. Then you're the own arbiter of your own destiny and technology and stuff. I would be happy with that. If you're below king level, maybe you do gravitate towards the nearest king level of your culture, or if you're, the only, if you as a duke are the highest of your culture, then I guess you can have it too. But something like that, I think, would be better.
So you would have a separate technology screen that's tied to the kingdom title or something like that.
No, it'd be. I'd get rid of cultural head entirely, and it would be, you or the person, your liege, if they're in the same culture, would be the one dictating your technology. If your liege is not of your culture, then you would be the arbiter of it. It would mean that there would be a lot more technological disparity around the world.
Yeah, so you're still having to create a bunch of extra tech categories, I guess, which would have been easy to do in CK2. I don't know how easy it would be to do in CK3. That sounds like it might be kind of complicated.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea that my tech is linked to somebody I have no contact with, and then you're suggesting to implement, changing how my culture, feels about.
I think being able to create new cultures will help that. To some degree. I do see your point about culture heads, that they are kind of this artificial gameplay thing that
That
they
makes
can
sense.
create some weird results for sure. Yeah, but
I don't think there's even any
fundamentally
historical
just doesn't make
precedent
sense. Like, sometimes you are not the head of a culture, and I think that's fine, not having more control of it. But say if I'm a very learned duke in the south of France or something, and the king is an idiot. Why is the king dictating the cultural, the speed in which the culture develops?
Yeah,
when I'm this great French philosopher, best friends with
it
the
almost
Pope.
seems like maybe it should take like multiple characters into account. Like every top level ruler should have some impact on it. Maybe would be
just
one
should
way
take
to
it
do
out of rulers' hands completely, because like culture's not determined by rulers; it's determined by artists and people and just
Dead the
general.
artist.
Well, no, but like say like
I am
choose...
actually the arbiter
As
of
I
culture.
said last week,
yeah, but
in this
people in
time
general.
period, artists and inventors, all people who were doing that work, they were usually funded by either the church or a ruler.
Well, it is, yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes, but the ruler is not the one who does it. It takes the learning skill of a ruler, right? I mean, I'm sure Michelangelo worked for all sorts of fantastic rulers who were idiots and uncultured. But it was Michelangelo that, like,
you know what they could
forged his path, wasn't it? It was Michelangelo you all remember.
Do you know what you could do to fix this?
Yeah,
I think without breaking the system is there's still the cultural head like we have now, but then the cultural head appoints someone who's in charge of research. Like you have a title you give. Like you currently have, the court physician. This person is the court researcher.
So you become more of a
become
more of a patron of the arts.
It's their learning that matters.
Yeah. That
I
would
could
make
see
more
that.
sense.
Yeah.
So like you find the Da Vinci of the year 1100. And
you know what? I think it would be more historically authentic if we tied technology, instead of to a cultural head, to the dynasty head. Because while I cannot see my character in Britain giving a shit what Bjorn says about what technology we're researching now, I can see him giving a shit if Bjorn was the head of the family. That would make sense. But just being the head of the culture, I don't think makes sense. Head of the family, yes. Put it more on the dynasty rather than the culture.
So there's also like the idea that the religions can have no formal religious head. Kind of weird that cultures can't, because a more decentralized cult, like maybe that could end up being a pillar at some point. Like how centralized is your culture? How much do they care about the main ruler of your culture's opinions? That could even be a like an extra pillar to things up. Yeah,
I mean, coming back to like the cultural focus thing too. Like I don't mind too much about the stereotyping aspects, but as you say, I think just about every culture is going to have basically go along with a stereotype, and there's so many cultures in CK3. The developers are going to get a few wrong, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to blame them.
We've already seen some that are kind of weird, and I'm not saying they're final, but like Anglo-Saxon is innovative. We're like 800 years too early.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It wasn't the
poetic?
Anglo-Saxons; it's the English. Yeah.
Poetic. I'd say like
maybe
Welsh, probably poetic too.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be the things about poetry, but
yeah,
a lot of these things, a lot of things are not going to make sense. I think that's
Right.
the only problem with it as it stands.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to the more obscure cultures,
Right, and it's what do you even have to base it on with some of these?
Yeah.
Like it's just gonna be I think it's gonna feel arbitrary for a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You know how CK already kind of has the awkward stereotype of being pro eugenics. You know, there's the cultural version of eugenics as well, as a little darker again. Maybe treading dangerous waters.
I mean, I think culture is separate from, genetics to some degree.
I want to
but,
hybridize with this culture because it's better at X.
Well, you already have that sort of thing anyway. Like,
I don't think that's necessarily worse than anything that's already in the game.
I mean,
like,
I mean,
trying to breed the strong, genius, beautiful, ultra Chad.
Yeah.
Already, like, English is objectively the best culture if you start on the earlier starts, because you basically steal all the other institutions you get. So, I think Norman can still do the German invasions, and they get all their stuff. French
Imagine if you do with the Norse and you don't have very many innovations, and then you go and you land in the Greek, anywhere in the Byzantium, and you hybridize with Greek culture.
Yeah. If anything, I actually think that's a positive narrative to me, because it's kind of talking about how different, disparate cultures can exchange things with each other to become stronger, rather than trying to create the the master race or whatever. Because that whole ideology was kind of based around, no, there's already one pure correct answer, and we have to make everybody else.
Didn't you Americans turn, like, this is completely alien to me in Lambert, obviously, but like, I think in America, Anglo-Saxon has become a sort of weird thing.
Yeah, there's
wasps.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
That's it. Yeah.
I saw on Twitter a couple of days ago somebody was writing a historical, not fiction. It was like a history book about Britain all through the ages, and they were asking for new terms for Anglo-Saxon people. I'm like, why don't you just use Anglo-Saxon? Apparently, because that's
something in America.
Shitty word in America. It's like, no,
it is frequently misused. I will say that. I think
shit.
In the context,
it's like the term Karen has become misused. I've been called a Karen for promoting car seat safety.
Which is like,
I've been told, parent your own kids. Don't worry, my kids are fine in the car when they don't have their seat buckled in properly.
Front of the bumper.
Let me tell you what the actual definition of a Karen is: somebody who is going off on someone who has no control over the situation and cannot help you, instead of the people actually responsible for the problem. If you're just mad about a broken system or something you think is stupid, and you're like, mad at the corporation, that's not being a Karen. Being a Karen, you specifically have to take it out on somebody who has no power to change it. That is what the definition of a Karen is.
Yeah. Also, you don't have a Karen hairstyle, so.
No. Someone needs to mod the Karen hairstyle into CK3.
God.
I'll do it.
Yeah. So, I kind of hope they'll think about maybe revising this a little bit before the expansion comes out. I know they don't have like infinite time, and there's a certain point that like major features kind of have to be set in stone, but also Paradox has a history of like completely reworking mechanics that don't work that well. So, we'll see what happens.
We'll just have to have like a list after it's released of all the cultures with weird stereotypes that don't make any sense.
I mean, it's going to be like all of them.
You just don't know about it. What would you pick for the Igbo culture, for example? Like,
it's you don't even have very good sources for some of them, so it's
exactly right. I mean, like,
it's just
honestly, I don't even know what I'd pick for Anglo-Saxons. Like, I don't know what I would pick for them.
Well, what are the options? All the options. Let's play stereotype of culture, the game.
I mean, you could just go full Tacitus and give all of the Germanic cultures bellicose, but like that, that's just as silly, I feel like. So like I feel like you could make the argument for most of these ethoi.
Yeah, I mean, like,
for most
like
cultures.
I mean, there's some are kind of obvious, but like Norse obviously you could like make the stereotype would be bellicose, right? For,
Right,
horse.
right.
And then like Mongol probably.
The Mongols are like one that I might actually agree. Yeah, okay, bellicose fits them pretty well.
I mean, they did do a lot of warring and a lot of aggression.
Because like Norse could also easily be inventive. They could be egalitarian.
They invented their longboats, which were pretty amazing.
Yeah, their political system was very egalitarian compared to most of Europe at the time. That's also another thing that I hope that
they invented hair care.
Gets around to modeling at some point is sort of the interplay between the freeman and the king in Old Norse societies. I
think like Italian is probably going to get spiritual, but I don't think that makes much sense, really.
You know what? Agamade in chat is saying it sounds like there should be a spectrum for ethics. I think ethics should be a slider.
Oh, everything should be a slider.
Well, this would be not, a slider that it locks on in different spots. So that you can move up or down, or even a full circle. Full circle slider.
No, because that looks like an eye. Fuck that.
Yeah, get a pie chart for Lambert.
God
no. Yeah.
Wouldn't be a pie chart.
We'll see what happens.
It would basically be a slider, but you've connected the two ends.
So it's horseshoe theory, but they meet in the middle.
Like a color wheel, yeah, I guess, sort of.
Horseshoe color, culture theory.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's just our thoughts on this mechanic and my our suggestions on how you might fix it.
True. There is a game mode that has no culture. We know it's uncultured. But they are trying to bring culture by bringing officers. If you think officers bring culture.
That segue is it's like using a hammer for a screw.
Yeah.
That's my perfect segue earlier got ruined by Leanna. So.
Yeah, that was my fault. Father Loris, what did we learn this week about Hearts of Iron 4 and the I think this is expansion content. Oh, they didn't actually say. They said no step back and the Barbarossa update.
Yeah, so I think I'm not quite sure if it's free content or not. I didn't glean that. But basically we're just going more into the officers we talked about last week. And some of the bonuses that you get. It's quite interesting. It's one of those dev diaries that you need to know more about what each of the bonuses do before you can really make your mind up about it. But you've got these green stars now that you can basically pump into different bonuses that you can change throughout the game. So, for example, you can have a focus on maneuver warfare. Or you can change that to static warfare, depending on the situation. So maybe you're playing as a French and you built the Super Maginot Line all across the Belgian border too. You might want to be sticking on static warfare for a while. Got victory or death, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's the green star is probably just the new icon for army experience.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's a new resource.
Did they say it was separate?
I think it's probably just going to be branch experience. I don't know if they've said specifically or not.
Yeah. Well, is it separate to what you use to design the tanks? I'm thinking.
I don't know actually.
I'm not quite sure either.
I was interested in this minus 75% engineering company unit design cost, which I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's going to cost less to add them to a template?
Yeah,
because that would be kind of powerful, especially for countries that start with really crap design templates. It can take a long time to get them up to a point that they're actually useful. So that would be nice.
But most interesting for me on that one is Proper Heritage, which is a man with a horse. So finally, you can really pump those horses out. Those horse divisions.
Just make a full cavalry army. That would be
finally. I can conquer the steppes.
We have Fab saying in chat saying green star is the new color for Army XP, blue is
Okay.
Navy, red is Air Force.
Okay, so
Right,
this
right,
will
right,
be the same points that you're spending on like tanks and land doctrine stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, and you can earn this from the start of the game now, right? So it's we're going to be a little less.
Right, yeah,
scarce, I
your
guess.
officer corps or whatever will generate some passively, I think they said.
Yeah. And also, you can spend your naval stuff to choose your naval command stuff,
yeah.
which is interesting.
This
I
was
really love the naval stuff, and I will shout out Morda's amazing video, as we are contractually obliged to every time we mention the Navy in Hearts of Iron.
So he saved me. He saved my life in my dream. So I mean,
Well, they're actually allowing like new compositions to actually be viable that weren't before, which I like this a lot better than just a flat bonus to whatever. If you don't have any screens, you get plus 20 positioning, so you can use capital ships as surface raiders, which is something that was actually tried. During the war. I don't think it turned out to be the best tactic, because it turned out the correct answer was aircraft carriers.
That's right, yeah. Well, everybody use capital ships anyway, because the fuel is going to eat it into. But using maybe destroyers could work.
Yeah,
destroyers, but then you don't get the lack of screen bonuses. I don't really see much of a use in that surface raider one. I'm more interested in seeing what the Brave Commanders stuff is going to be like, and efficient communication. That'd be interesting.
Political loyalty is one of the spirits.
Yeah,
you can pick. That's kind of
so they said that some of them are actually tied to your ideology. So obviously you can't have political officers if you are democratic. It doesn't make much sense. I wouldn't really make. I don't know if. Yeah, you probably get them for fascists, probably. Certainly for communists, right?
Yeah, I would say fascists and communists should probably both get access to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think the best thing about this is preferred tactics.
Yes.
Having control over your tactics is something I've wanted in the game for a long time, especially if you're playing, I don't know, communist China, and you really, really want to focus on guerrilla warfare.
Right.
Yeah. So much fun.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know how much it'll work in game, how good it would be in game.
Yeah, that is the thing, is like, I don't know how much I'm actually going to notice that this is happening.
It's going to feel good, though,
I'll click on the one that I like for RP reasons, and then that'll make me feel better, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to be exactly the same. You know, if I'm playing like Japan and I click mass charge, I'm going to feel great about it. Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah, it's mostly an affectation from my perspective, but I'm sure that the really hardcore Hoi people will figure out how to use this to their fullest advantage.
That's right.
They'll have a way to min-max it.
Yeah.
Oh, we got like switching out the preferred tactics like every 2 seconds.
Right.
Getting real sweaty about it, like the nerds that they are. I'm calling you out. Hardcore Hearts of Iron players, get a life. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We on NoCB, a grand strategy podcast, a weekly 1 hour to 90-minute to sometimes 2-hour podcast specifically about grand strategy games, are calling you nerds and telling you to get a life.
That's right. Yeah.
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
Suck it, nerds.
I have
look, there's the tank, nerd.
There's not many people lower on the cooler scale.
Yes.
We have to pick our fight smart.
That I can call the kettle black. Yes.
My grandma builds better T-34s than you.
That I think is all the news for this week. Rose, what have you been up to lately, and where can people find you?
I've been sick, but I am on Twitch and YouTube. Probably gonna stream some Going Medieval or Crusader Kings 3 on Thursday. I'm not sure. Even tonight. I don't know. We'll see.
I still need to jump into Going Medieval. I said I was gonna do that last week, and I haven't
also
loaded it up yet. Yeah.
Fail.
Lambert, what about yourself?
I've been playing a good bit of Vicky 2, though I've also been sick for about a week, so my amount of streaming plummeted and I haven't done much. But been doing a bit of Vicky 2, and starting tomorrow, there's going to be another Imperator Room community multiplayer where I'm going to be playing as Biblos in a like a shattered world kind of start. Yeah, up the Phoenicians, I guess. That should be fun.
Alfred's asking in chat, did you ignore Stellaris? I don't believe there was a dev diary this week. Correct me if I'm wrong. I will throw down with the nerds. If you're talking about the Q&A, the community doesn't ask very good questions, or at least they don't ask questions that you guys are allowed to give good answers to, because it's all about stuff that you can't talk about yet. Like, that's what it feels like. Oh, was there a dev diary about Necroids?
Changes to Necroid content in the LEM update, and also admin camp might be going away. Yeah. You have to see, considering it comes out like every Friday, so it's so far away.
I guess
from the podcast.
I always feel like we talked about it last week.
Yeah,
I go based on the wiki. That's how I organize things.
Yeah, and here we go. This is why we have a channel in our Discord that gets the announcements from the different games. It got buried because Stellaris posted the dev diary, and then Stellaris talked about A-Spec, and then Stellaris talked about the summer sale, and then Stellaris talked about the Q&A, and then Stellaris talked about the Q&A again.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put this on the docket for next week, and we'll do like a Stellaris double
feature
next week.
I mean, honestly, we kind of forgot about it last week as well, so probably gonna be triple.
Did we?
I think so. I don't remember talking about Stellaris in a while.
I'll go back over all of the dev diaries and make sure.
No, we did talk about Stellaris last week. There was it wasn't any new content. It was just them chatting, I think.
Oh, the balancy stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll put it on the docket for next week. I do have to go in a little bit, or else we
go watch that A-Spec video too, because it's actually really good.
Loris, you been up to anything interesting?
I haven't been sick.
Yeah,
that's good.
So, dab.
Lucky you.
Unless you count, sick as in really cool,
Hell yeah!
It is no longer the 90s.
Come on, bring back the 90s.
Wow. And you are not from California, so no, you are not. You are not sick cool, my dude.
I lived in California for like 3.5 years.
Come on, I'm radical.
I think I can bestow honorary fake California poser citizenship on Father Lawrence. Hell yeah!
Am I totally tubular? Please come tell me I'm totally tubular.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I use the word rad unironically in everyday conversation. So yeah, we're just the coolest people on Earth here. Yeah.
Yeah, apart from that, I've just been building. So,
nice.
What about you, Liana? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I reviewed Chivalry 2, which is really good. If you're into those types of games, my review of that is up on IGN. And haven't really been streaming, but I'd like to get back into that at some point here. I'll be sure to let you know when it works out. Lore Sworn Order is my channel, and I feel like I'm forgetting something that I wanted to plug. I'll put it on the docket for next week. Extravaganza. Make sure your dev diaries go up on the wiki so I can find them. Because it's literally what I use to play on the show, is I go to the wiki for all of the games that are out and see if there are any new dev diaries that I haven't clicked on yet. And we'll see you back here this time next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.